Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Anna.gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm super excited to have my guest Jacqui here for many reasons. Number one, I love her name. It is my mom's name, so props to Jacqui here. And number two, I have watched Jacqui on LinkedIn for a very long time, and I've wanted to have her on here. And so I'm really, really glad that you're here. And I'm sure that there are plenty of other people out there that want to know your story. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I always start off the podcast with, where in the world are you coming from?
I'm currently in South Carolina right now.
Okay. South Carolina. It's nice down there.
Yeah.
How's the weather go? Is it hot and humid or no?
Right. It's a little hot and humid. I grew up in New York and we moved down here a few years ago, but I love it. I'll take that over the snow.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. We'll have to get into that. All right. So South Carolina, and you grew up in New York, right? Okay. So let's go back in time and talk about your life in New York. Did you grow up in the city or outside the city? Long Island. Okay. I'm not super familiar. I've been there only a couple times, so I'm not super familiar with the geographic area as much as I would like to be, actually. Okay. So did you go to school in New York or did you go elsewhere?
I spent my whole life in New York. All of my nursing schooling was done either in New York or remotely. And didn't leave or live anywhere else until about 3 years ago.
Okay. All right. How long ago did you go to nursing school? A long time ago. We'll just a long time ago, a short time ago?
Let's see. Well, I've been a nurse for about 25 years. I started off as an LPN and then went into getting my RN.
Okay. All right. So we're in the same era, 25-year era. So I know life was different back then. Okay. And when you went to school, did you know what you wanted to do? Did you or did you change your trajectory? What did that look like for you?
I have to say I was pretty much on a trajectory that just kept offering opportunities and enhancing itself. I started my LPN when I was in high school, actually in my senior year, and I had worked at a doctor's office, which kind of got me into medicine and patients and helping people in need. And then after I did that, I loved it. I started working in a nursing home in subacute rehab, did a little home health all the time, pursuing my RN, and then continued on the higher degree path through my master's through the years.
Okay. All right. So it was the working in the medical office that got you in. Did you have any family, or were they encouraging? Because a lot of times, I've met people on here that either have, a family member, or it was someone or something that got them into nursing. Was it something that was in your family, or?
No, believe it or not, I happened to really love working in that doctor's office. And then for my senior year, I wanted to see what the tech school had to offer, because I was looking to get some boots on the ground and start working right away, while at the same time pursuing a higher degree in tuition reimbursement. And the guidance counselor literally gave me a list, and I said, "Oh, a nurse, I could see myself doing that." I worked at the doctor's office. Yeah. And then it ended up just, catapulting from there on.
Yeah. I think that's been the theme of the last few episodes. It's been a guidance counselor that has shown someone, nursing, which, I mean, it makes sense, I mean, that's my daughter is now pursuing nursing as well because it just makes sense. It's not because my mom was a nurse. It's really just because it's makes sense and it's a good career. And, there are so many things that you can do in it. That's one of the great things, again, about this podcast is that everyone that I've interviewed has been in different specialties. It's had different stories and you just make it your own. So, okay. So did you work in that doctor's office all the way up until you were ready to be on your own? And what did you do from there?
Well, I started at that office very young, at 14, as soon as I got my work from here.
Wow.
Yeah. Then once I received my LPN, I, did medical assistant and LPN for them a little intermittently, but I moved on to nursing home, subacute rehab. I managed a Alzheimer's unit for a little time there too, and did some home health. And that's when I was pursuing my RN. Once I
Okay.
received my RN, then I moved to the acute care side of my experience.
Got you. So the nursing home side of things, I don't know if I've really talked to many people that have worked on that side. There's only a few. Tell me a little bit more about that experience because I think it's for those that have only worked in acute care. Um, I don't even know if I must have had, 2 days in nursing school at a nursing home. Was it something that you really enjoyed? Was it difficult? What was that like for you?
I loved it. You get to have an intimate experience with your patients because you're seeing the same patients every day. In the rehab, there was some turnover, but it was for good purposes because for the most part, people got to go home, they hit their goals, and, it was because of the great care that was provided. So, I really enjoyed that part. And on the long-term side, just getting to do nice little things for the patients, especially the ones that don't have family visiting or seemed a little lonely, you could really have a good holistic impact. And, on the dementia unit, you learn to bob and weave a little bit.
Yeah.
So every area gives you a little something.
On your toes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So then you moved on and then you worked in home health, you said. Um, did you enjoy that? What did you enjoy about home health?
A home health, I had a TBI patient that was very close in age to me, and I was very young at that time. So it was, I still talk about this lady to this day. It was really nice to be able to give her assistance and care while also being kind of in the same age group because she wasn't used to having that sort of support. And, it actually became a friendship too. So, that I also enjoyed a lot as well.
Yeah. So it was impactful too in your life. We all have those moments through our career where something stands out for one reason or another. It connects with you. I know for me, I could never be an L&D nurse or peds but because I remember vividly when I was in nursing school and I watched my first baby being born, I was like in tears. I can't do this. I would be in tears every single time. I would not be able to compose myself. So that I always, whenever I think of L&D, I think of that one moment where I just lost it as a student. And I didn't have kids then. So there's just always these moments, especially over the length of your career that stand out. I love those moments too. Those are the moments I share with my daughter now. She's like, yeah, Mom, I know. You already told me that. All right. So home health, and then you pursued your RN license and on to your master's. What drove you to do that? What was your goal?
I think I always set out to have a goal of being a registered nurse. I started seeing some of the trials in healthcare, particularly for the staff, and I thought I was getting an idea about how to do some things a little bit better, or to have opportunity for improvement that will take the burden off of me and get me back doing what I want to be doing, like actually caretaking of the patients and being able to spend that time with them. So I think that was really my driving, and being able to assist other healthcare members as well was my driving force.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So you got your RN license. You said you ended up going into acute care. Where were you? Where were you at? What kind of nursing?
I started off telemetry as a telemetry nurse,
Yeah.
and I ended up being a nurse manager on that unit, an assistant nurse manager. And as I was on that unit, we were onboarding cardiothoracic, so it also became a cardiothoracic step-down unit as well.
Okay. All right. So you're really good at reading an EKG, I'm guessing. It's been a topic of conversation over the last week or so. I just recently gained privileges at another hospital for some per diem work as a first assistant. And I was in hospital orientation with all of these young nurses. And most of them were actually telemetry nurses, and they'd only been nurses for a couple of years. And I'm sitting over there going, ha ha, I don't have to do that class. I don't have to do that. And they're all sitting there having to take an EKG test. And I was like, there is no way. I've never been good at reading EKGs. So I watched all these young, telemetry nurses that are just pretty much just out of school, that have come from a different floor or a different setting, and they were freaking out about these EKG tests. And that was the first time I had ever seen an EKG test being given in a hospital orientation. So it was the topic of conversation all week. And I was telling my daughter, make sure you learn EKGs. It's one thing I regret is not really being able to read one. And one of these days I'll sit and study it. But I've taken multiple classes and I still don't get it. So props to those that do. Okay, so you went into management. That's usually a question I have. Did you enjoy management? Because I can tell you my own stuff.
I actually did, and with higher responsibility with me came a lot of questions. So I was certainly asking lots of questions, and I have to say, give a shout out to, I was in New York at the time. I had 2 unions reporting to me, and those unions taught me a lot about labor law and proper training and competency, which I still tap into those skills today using on the consulting side of business. So, and it was very interesting to be able to see how policy and operations impact not just me as a nurse bedside, but from a balcony view. And to me, it was a good opportunity to highlight where we're having repeat negative outcomes, or where I keep seeing my nurses getting frustrated, and you do your best that you can to alleviate those burdens and barriers for them.
Right. So you enjoyed that aspect of management.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, it's the experience in learning that extra layer it's always helpful for your own career, and it's enjoyable to be that mentor to those that that don't.
And I didn't have the emotional girth to deal with that for life. It was good for a set amount.
Right. Exactly. It served its time. I can totally relate to that. How long were you in
management? Journey.
Yeah. How long were you in management?
Most of my career I was in management. In the nursing home, I ended up being a manager of a few units. Then I was a telemetry staff nurse for a few years, and then it was management until I left corporate and started my own business. So I would say that's like close to 2 decades.
Wow. All right. So tell me a little bit about you making this decision to start your own business. How did that come about for you?
Well, the job that I had at the time, I created an interfacility transfer center in New York, over 23 hospitals, facilities. We had our own fleet EMS and helicopter, and we were given a great opportunity to design our own custom software. So that program, just as I was finishing building and onboarding the last major hospital, believe it or not, someone just reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I was not looking for legal nurse consulting or expert witness work or anything. They just wanted to find an interfacility transfer expert. So it was interesting because I had heard kind of whispers about expert witnesses and legal nursing for years, but I never met anyone in real life that actually did it. So it kind of seems almost like a myth to me.
Yeah, no, I get that, because it's the same thing. For years, you would get the pamphlets in the mail.
Right.
And it was always a mystery. I totally can see that. I'd never met anyone that had actually done it as well. So I've heard that with a lot of people, that was their first experience with it. Someone reaching out, asking them. So were you active on LinkedIn then, or you just had a profile and they found you? And
I was semi-active, nowhere as near as how active I was now, posting things for my department and kudos to coworkers, the usual health system sort of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So it was a surprise, and I welcomed the opportunity, and I loved it so much that I started my own business.
Right. So you had a really good experience with that first reach out. And then did you inquire more with who had reached out to you, or did you just inquire around, like, what is this legal nurse consulting thing, and then dive in that way? How did that look like?
I started looking around, and I was not really getting anything other than superficial information, and again, not speaking with anybody that I actually knew. So I had trust issues, of course.
Sure. Yeah, no.
But I'm a trailblazer by definition. I created multiple departments from scratch. So I wasn't so hung up on hanging my hat on someone else's way. I kind of wanted to just kind of pave my way. So I did take courses and things, but I think I'd be best suited saying I kind of carved out my own niche and way of going about cases.
I love that, because there is more than one way to skin a cat, right? There's more than one way to do this. And that's what makes this so interesting. I was talking to someone, I think it was actually at that orientation, and I was telling them about, doing this legal nurse consulting. And they said, oh, you have to be certified. No, not really. No, you can really pave your own path. There are recommendations on to go this way or that way, or this may help you, or this may not. So I love the fact that you kind of did your own thing and built your own world around this. How long ago was that?
I've been in business a little over 4 years.
And you jumped right in. So one of the biggest things, and obviously you are not afraid to put yourself out there, building your career over time. I think that the fear of nurses is really putting themselves out there. It's not doing the work. We can all do the work. We've all looked at charts for however many years we've looked at medical records, but putting themselves out there. So for you, what did you do initially to put yourself out there? Now that you've got the idea in, you're ready to do this, you've dug in, you've learned a little bit here and there. What was that like for you as far as putting yourself out there? How did you start with your business?
I started with LinkedIn. I built most of my business in my first year off of LinkedIn. I would call local attorneys and offer to come in and speak with them, or even just discuss a case that they had another expert on, just to kind of, I always say, flex my nurse brain, or just show them what I'm working with to see if there's anything outstanding with me that you would like to have a part of your record reviews. And then, moving down a little bit, I joined some business networking groups. So that was helpful too, because it kind of forces you to get out of your shell and stand up and speak about yourself, because as we all know, nurses aren't used to, more than most professions, self-promotion. It's quite the opposite.
Yeah. Did you find it difficult? Did you embrace it? You love it? Like, is it something that you love to do now? I know for me, I asked that question because I do love it, but it wasn't always that way.
I'd rather be on the beach, obviously.
Well, that's a good point.
If I had to pick, but I'm very comfortable in speaking and articulating. When I was bringing up that transfer center, we were proposing to all of the service lines and chiefs and C-suites our new policies and protocols. You had to be able to stand up and be confident and have no reek of incompetence or washiness. So that's always been hard grains in myself, but it's not my favorite to go and try to promote myself. But I do realize that people need to get to know you, and if you sit in your office all day, nobody's going to get to know you or know what you offer. So.
Right. I love that. Okay, so you started off on LinkedIn, you started making phone calls, you started really putting yourself out there, and what does that look like? I know you're active on LinkedIn now. Is it still a big piece of your marketing business, or is most of your business word of mouth? What does that look like? I'm saying that because you're 4 years in, you've got this business going. Again, a lot of listeners are either doing this business or are stepping into it and want to see what everyone's future looks like. What did their past look like? How did they get started? What did their future look like? And they try to put themselves in their shoes. So I like to, get you to kind of be that, what is it? The
map.
I'm thinking of a crystal ball. That's what it is, a crystal ball. Yes.
So from doing a lot of emergency operations, I know scalability is really important for me throughout my career. So I took that into my LMC business. So I was very steadfast on the fact of, just because it worked for you in the beginning and you think you're doing well doesn't mean you kick your feet up and say, okay, that's enough of that. So with that said, even though 4 years in, I am almost 100% referral based at this point, I still like to have a presence on LinkedIn, not only for attorneys, but for other expert witnesses, because I do have this niche specialty of interfacility transfers, which even people in healthcare don't even know what the hell that is. So it takes some time for people to associate and get to know that. And then, I'll message attorneys every once in a while on LinkedIn, especially because I'm in a new state and I'd like to build up more of a local presence, but also just to keep myself in that vibe, because, no matter how good you are, and this is a lesson for everyone, that clients are going to come and go. And, I have people and clients in large firms that have stuck with me from inception, and I'm sure they'll be with me to the end. But, you never want to just count. Anything can change in life at any point. So you might as well keep that flexibility built into your daily structure of your business. And even when you are cushy or maybe even overwhelmed with work, still have it on the calendar, even if it's once a month, just to kind of keep yourself warm. Yeah. So if the need ever does arise that you have extra time that's not filled, it's not like, oh crap, what did I do 1, 2, 3, 5 years ago? It's already built into your system. I like to make the analogy. It's like the Department of Health. If you work every day, like the Department of Health is there when they come, you don't have to freak out because it's already hardwired into your daily habits.
Right. I love that. That's such a good point. It's so true. And, it's, I think that the challenge is the balance of it all. I think that people, they get busy and then they can't do it, and then they freak out because they're not doing it. And, it's like, you just find a steady balance and, take care of yourself first. And I say that my mom worries about me all the time. I hope you're not burning the candle at both ends. Mom, I'm 52 years old. I've been doing that for a long time, but I know when to say no.
Yeah. And speaking to that, one of the things that I have to do is schedule like time off. And like sometimes I'm like in an argument with myself, like stop working,
Totally.
go to the beach, go do something fun, go out to lunch with your husband, go meet your friends. That's actually harder for me and my type A personality than to keep working through.
I totally agree with you. It's really, I just did that the other day. I was like, I'm going to force myself to go to the pool. And I'm not bringing my phone with me. I'm bringing a book. Let's go to the pool and bring a book. But it is difficult to walk away. So I can totally relate to that. So now, because you said that most people don't understand, or a lot of people don't understand the inner facility transfer, can you explain that for people? And the reason why I say that also is because I really am a big fan of, having the knowledge of what other people do so that we can refer the need to you. It's like, oh, wait, that's exactly what this attorney is looking for, even though they don't know what they're looking for. So would you explain that for those that may come across an attorney that's, working on a case that may need someone like you?
Sure. So interfacility transfer in acute care is when you're at one hospital and you need to move to another hospital. And that could be for a variety of reasons. It could be the CAT scan's down. It could be there's no ORs available. There was a mass casualty incident. It could be you need to have a cardiac catheterization or maybe cardiothoracic surgery and moving for that, moving to a trauma hospital, little baby neonates going to the proper NICU level. There's a variety of reasons. And also one that sometimes is missed is due to capacity. If that hospital is on diversion or can't handle the volume due to no availability, which could be beds or procedural areas, etc. All of these would qualify for questioning if an interfacility transfer is in need. And what I find happens in most cases is people don't even realize this is like a specialty or an entity or even part of the case. They just kind of see A to B and not the process of in between A to B. So just to lightly go over, interfacility transfer would obviously start with a differential diagnosis, which could be either clinically or if it's a transfer due to operational reasons like availability we were discussing, to see if there's a need there. Once that is discovered, then there needs to be transfer requested. There needs to be a facility to accept. There needs to be physician acceptance and physician to physician report in some mechanism. Then transport needs to be arranged. A determination needs to be made of if it's going to be ground or flight. And also just circling back to that facility, which facility are you going to be sending to? If you're somewhere that is densely populated and you have multiple options, how do you pick? How do you know even if your facility has the capability and that facility does or does not? So it's actually a super complex matrix, and there's so many different milestones to it. And I think I have outlined like 12 basic milestones. Even if you have only like a 10-minute delay for every one of those milestones, you're at a 2-hour delay already, which could be somebody's life or limb. Right. So it really adds up quick if there's not a streamlined process, escalation, it's being monitored, and also being able to run a parallel process. Because if you start running these things one by one, you're losing a lot of time.
Right. Yeah. And then any sort of breakdown, which I know I've seen in records, I've seen these breakdowns or, one facility not accepting for whatever reason. And you don't really understand how that works. You just see what you see on there. So I imagine that there are breakdowns and delay of care and things like that, that if that wasn't put into place, then someone like you would be able to see that instantly on what they, whether they were meeting those criteria or those steps that they needed to take. So I think that that's incredibly valuable for people out there that are looking at cases that are, a delay of care because of a transfer. I'm guessing, is that correct? Something like that would be
right. And again, because there's so many milestone events, in a lot of cases that I see that do have negative outcomes, it's a cumulative delay, a delay in triaging the patient, a delay in doing the testing, a delay in the radiologist reading the testing, a delay in the testing getting to the physician who has to request the transfer, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of opportunities there, and having a good system in place is what really helps move that forward. Because if you're boots on the ground, especially in an emergency situation, and you have responsibilities for other patients, it's not the time where you want to start like doing quality review on a process, see how it can improve, right? You want it to just be able to execute.
Implement. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's really good information. And it's really good to put, your name with that. I'll just call it specialty, because that's kind of, we all have our own specialties. And so when someone is looking for someone in that specialty, you are clearly the one for that. So I'm glad that you shared that and explained that. What advice would you give? What advice would you give a legal nurse who has a specialty, who wants people to understand their specialty? How would they go about making themselves stand out separately? Because, we're all nurses. How do we stand out?
I like to post, obviously, as you see, like post some content that was specific to my niche, but also when you're first establishing yourself there, most nurses have a competency skill set in inserting IVs, safety rounds, falls, things of that nature. So to make sure that you're also reminding people that you're coming into conversation with, that I just don't do only interfacility transfers. I can also do falls. I'm wound care certified. I worked in a nursing home. Like, think about all the other areas that you've worked and established an expertise in, and make sure that you're not isolating yourself to just your one niche. I would also say you don't want to drown people in over information. I have 25 years experience. It's a mouthful. I've been in a lot of specialties. I don't want to like word vomit on somebody every time I meet them, right? You want to give them small little take homes, right? Because most people, when they're meeting someone, you're in like your reptile brain, so it's very primitive. You're not going to remember a lot, right? No. So you want to angle towards that as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's such good advice. Yeah, I love that. Okay. Well, I appreciate this is a short little conversation, but I'm so glad that having this conversation with you, I get to put the face with the name and the voice with the profile, and now we're all put together here. So can you tell people where they can find you? And I'm sure they'll send you a message and say, thank you for sharing, because that's usually what happens.
Jacqueline Clancy. I'm on LinkedIn. My email is Jaccqui, Jaccqui, the nurse @gmail. I've had that email since I was an LPN, so I didn't change it for my nurse consulting. It just ended up working out like that. I also have a website, jnclancy.com. And, if you're on a case or of some sort of issue that's going on, I'm more than happy to speak with anyone anytime. Retains or not, I'm always happy to share some insight and help a fellow colleague along the way.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge and your story. And I look forward to people reaching out to you and getting excited about hearing your story. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, and the pleasure was all mine.
Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. Or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at anna.gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.